What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Saturday. Happy college football Saturday, in fact. A lot of fun college football today. I know a lot of you guys are probably partaking, but if you're on this channel and you're watching this video, there's a pretty good chance your heart is truly set on tomorrow afternoon with the Seahawks returning home to play the New Orleans Saints. And this is a great opportunity to get the first home win of the season. Great opportunity to build some momentum going into some pretty big games coming up here. And while there are some initial warning signs and there are some initial things to be concerned about for sure, this seems like a pretty great opportunity to just take care of business quietly and move on to the next game. So let's talk about this matchup a little bit here. We got a Saints team that is going through a true... I don't even know if you could call it a transition year. It's more like just a full blow it up year. They're finally having that season where they just say, you know what, let's stop protecting our 6-win, 7-win, 8-win core. Let's stop just trying to make the playoffs and go one and done. Let's stop having this team where the ceiling is low. And let's just take on the pain. Let's take the losses. Let's turn the roster over in a complete and significant way, and let's just accept that it's not our year. It's the year the Saints have been pushing off for a while. It's finally here, and their opponents, including the Seahawks this year, should be able to take advantage of that. So, pretty good opportunity here. That doesn't mean there isn't some stuff to be concerned about, but you've got things set up for you pretty well in this one. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new, click the bell, become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup. We've got a Saints team that is already 0-2 at home this year. They're not even able to win games at home. And we all know that Saints team, when they are good, they lean pretty heavily on home field advantage. They depend on being able to get it done in their dome. And if they're not getting it done in their dome, and think about who they played so far. They got to play a very beat-up Niners team, and they got to play probably an okay Cardinals team. But those are games that you would expect an even okay Saints team to probably win. So this is just going to be one of those years where the Saints are one of the worst teams in the league. And like I just said, they're overdue for a season like this, and it's not the worst thing in the world. But while they're here, you gotta kick them while they're down. And I'm not saying you got to blow them out, but you do have to come away from this one with a win if you are a serious team. So the concerns that you have going into a game like this, I think, are pretty clear based on yesterday's injury report. This secondary is very beat up. Emenwari, probably not playing. Witherspoon, probably not playing. Julian Love, probably not playing. Which means you are going up against a Saints... I don't want to say it's great or anything, but it's a pretty good skill position player room on the offense with dependence on guys like Ty Okada and Darion Kendrick. And I'm not saying they're bad players, maybe a little bit of Shaq Griffin or Nehemiah Pritchett. I don't necessarily say any of those guys are just really bad, but they're not the guys that you were hoping to have with you going into any NFL game that you played this year. And there is a little bit of concern there. But other than that, this is absolutely a game you need to take advantage of. And let me tell you guys about something you guys should be taking advantage of. Sleeper, back in 60 seconds. Before I go any further, I want to tell you a little bit about my friends over at Sleeper. If you're not using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy football this year, you are missing out on some great opportunities. Take a look on the left side of your screen right now. Look at all these great things you can do over there at any time you want to. Make all kinds of over-under picks. Let's take a look at my entry for this week. I got Bijan and Saquon scoring anytime touchdowns. I think both those guys are going to get in the end zone and help lead their team to big victories. I got Pat Mahomes going over 29.5 rushing yards. He's going to need to run the ball a lot because of the way that Chiefs offense is right now. And I got JSN going over 68.5 receiving yards. Got to keep going the over on JSN until he gives us a reason not to. You get on over to Sleeper, use my promo code SBN. You can get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. opening up operations in Washington State in October, currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, welcome back. So, like I said, you're facing the Saints team that does have some talent in that receiver room, and they've also got a nice little tight end in Juwan Johnson, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks. He's old, but he's bringing some things to the table that are still pretty commendable. He's still a pretty decent player. And you're also looking at Rashid Shaheed, who we know is very dangerous. So it's not the ideal time to have your secondary in such a bad state. It's not. I will admit that. But I still think that you take a look at that offensive line the Saints are bringing into this game. You take a look at the injuries they've already got up front, and you should be able to overcome that deficiency and still find a way to play well defensively. Fuaga, I think, is unlikely to play. You're probably going to get Trevor Penning, but Trevor Penning has his own problems this year trying to transition to guard. And if there are any issues with Trevor Penning, they're down to their third string left guard because Raduns is also out. Therefore, there's certainly a scenario where this Saints offensive line is just extremely beat up, almost canceling out how beat up your secondary is. Remember, their starting left tackle is the rookie, Kelvin Banks, and I don't even know if Kelvin Banks should be playing tackle in the NFL, but even if he should be, that's a rookie. You take advantage of the rookie. And we know how good this Seahawks pass rush has been so far this year. I will say, so far this year, the Saints have done a good job of one thing, which is getting the ball out of Spencer Rattler's hands pretty quickly. And Spencer Rattler has been all right. You take a look at the numbers. He's avoided turnovers. He's kept things at least somewhat manageable for that Saints offense. His yards per attempt is very, very low because everything is just hit your back foot, get the ball out. So maybe this isn't the week where we see a massive amount of sacks or anything like that. But this is definitely a week where you can throw some exotic things at a quarterback who is not experienced enough to see everything coming. If you throw exotic looks at him, if you blitz defensive backs and drop defensive linemen into coverage, and you're switching things up constantly on the back where what you see pre-snap is not what you get post-snap, that's a guy who could absolutely make big mistakes in this game. That's a guy who could throw it right to you a couple times. That's a guy who could really give you the ball a few times in ways that a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers would never do at this stage of his career. Even if Aaron Rodgers is not a great quarterback anymore, Rattler just hasn't seen the things that he's seen. So I'm very intrigued to see how McDonald attacks this young, inexperienced quarterback, someone who has 8 NFL starts, hasn't won a game yet, and wasn't really a top prospect coming out of college. I know that there was a point where it looked like he was going to be a big shot, but it obviously never really manifested. And I do kind of like Spencer Rattler. I think that he's all right. I think that he can do some positive things out there. And I did like him a little bit more than most coming out of college. But we've seen that you can see they've got the training wheels on him in New Orleans. And there's probably a reason why that's the case. So there are things you can do to attack him. And generally speaking, even with the problems in the secondary, I think this defensive front alone should get it done enough to make sure you win this game. On the other side of the ball, offense looking relatively healthy. We're probably down Charbonnet, but I don't even think he's our best running back. If you lose a game you should win, and your excuse is we didn't have our second best running back, then you probably didn't deserve to win the game in the first place. So I'm looking at this Saints defense. They played okay so far this year, but that's a unit that is very old. That's a unit that doesn't have a lot of speed. You've got a defense really built around guys like Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan. Both those guys are 36. And Demario Davis is still quite a good player. A lot of these off-ball linebackers are able to continue playing well even when they're older. But Cameron Jordan doesn't have a lot left. And with Chase Young out, and he has been declared out of this game, there's not much room for him to be playing. I don't see how he does. They've already declared him out. There isn't a lot in the front seven that really intimidates you at this point. Like Curtis Granderson's had a good start to the year, but I don't know if he's a great player. I think he's okay. Brian Brissy has been good, but again, he's not a complete game wrecker or anything like that. He had like 8 sacks last year. Not a bad player at all. I like him. I remember liking him a lot in the draft. But overall, they run that 3-4 defense. They've got Godshocks, or what's his name? Goschocks in the middle at nose tackle. He's not very good. You can definitely run at him a little bit. So it's not really a front that I'm really all that intimidated by. They've been okay against the run so far this year. But I think this is a great opportunity for this offensive line to start effectively run blocking. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the stats. This team is terrible at run blocking past the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by that is, to put it a little bit more finely, this team has been a little bit of a disaster when it comes to letting their running back get past the line of scrimmage before getting hit. So this is a great opportunity for this offensive line to start at least showing improvement in that area, because last year was one thing. Last year you were running basically air raid. You were running this pass first, pass second, pass third offense with Ryan Grubb. But if this team continues to allow their running backs to get mauled behind the offensive line before they can even get to the line of scrimmage, if we continue to have contact in the backfield or at the line on running backs over and over and over again, then I can't imagine this team having any success this year because of the way it's built and the way this was planned. So for us to have the second highest rate in the NFL of running back contact behind the line or at the line, that is untenable. And if that doesn't get better as the season goes on, I think that we will have a pretty forgettable season where we're leaning completely on the defense to bail us out, and the offense just kind of motors along and puts up their 16, 19 points a game most weeks. So I want to see improvement there. The Saints secondary, I like a lot of the players in that secondary, but there's some inexperience back there. A guy like Jonas Sanker, who I do like. He's getting thrust out there because Honey Badger retired right before the season started. He is somebody you should be able to attack. Kool-Aid McKinstry has been all right so far in his career, but you take a look at what this team was able to do against Jalen Ramsey last week. You take a look at the way JSN is playing so far this year. There's a great opportunity for this team to attack him as well. Isaac Yadam, that's a guy who you can go after repeatedly in the slot. That's a guy who we remember a little bit from last year's game against the 49ers, both games. That's a guy who you can definitely find some soft spots against in the slot, and we all know that this team is pretty heavy on the talented, quality slot receivers. So I'm looking to attack that area of the team a little bit, and that's really all that can be said about this Saints team. I think that when the season is done, they will be one of the worst teams in the league. They are doing some things that are commendable. I'm sure they're going to win a few games down the line here, but you got to win this one, period. I don't care who's injured. I don't care who isn't completely 100% themselves. You got to find a way to win the game. And I think that they will. I went with something like 23-13. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm not going to call a blowout. I don't think this is the kind of game you win in a blowout. I think it's the kind of game you take control of, and then you just lean on the opponent until they fall over. So 23-13. I think that Saints defense is done a commendable job, so I don't think we're going to put up a ton of points, but it's going to be enough. And I think there's going to be some turnovers as well on the part of the Seahawks defense. So let's go get it done tomorrow. You guys know the drill by now, I think. Bleacher Report stream right after the game, and then post-game video like an hour after the game ends. And yeah, hopefully we're talking about a 2-1 Seahawks team when it's all over. But whatever there is to talk about, we will be talking about it. See you guys later. Go Hawks. probably at least a couple more videos later today. I am streaming the Huskies game, so see y'all then.